Joe Biden's U.S. economy continues to decline, and the corridors of power in the United States, a ticking time bomb, is threatening the nation's financial stability. The unthinkable is on the verge of happening, an imminent default on U.S. debt. The failure of the United States Congress to achieve a consensus on increasing the debt ceiling would plunge the nation into a state of crisis. The White House hoped that deep cuts to government programs proposed by Republicans would prove so unpopular that enough GOP members of Congress would side with the president for Congress to raise the debt ceiling without conditions. Instead, Republicans have stayed united. The Republican-controlled House voted last month to approve a bill that would increase the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion, while cutting $4.5 trillion in domestic spending. The looming deadline intensifies the strain on the nation's financial security, potentially sending shockwaves across the international financial system. Hi, and welcome back to another video of Finance Sense, where we cover all the latest trends in the financial markets and the economy. In this video, we'll discuss the alarming situation unfolding in the United States. We'll also explore the potential consequences of a U.S. debt default and its impact on the global economy. The United States Congress has been unable to reach a consensus on increasing the debt ceiling. Hence, the impending deadline puts a strain on the nation's capacity to maintain financial security. In the event that the United States defaults on its debts, shockwaves would be sent across the international financial system. Borrowing costs would increase as a result of rising interest rates. Fear is beginning to spread throughout global markets, and investors are frantically trying to locate safe havens for their money as the value of stocks continues to plunge and the chaos in currency markets continues. A worldwide economic downturn is approaching. Because of how intertwined the economies of the globe are, a U.S. debt default would have an effect on every nation. A financial meltdown on a worldwide scale is imminent. If Congress doesn't increase the debt ceiling, the United States may experience a severe economic catastrophe as early as June. This may set off an unthinkably large financial disaster on a worldwide scale. While Democratic leaders are pressing for an immediate rise in the ceiling, Republican lawmakers are insisting on a consensus on spending cuts and other conditions. The outcome of this high-stakes standoff might decide the future of the American economy. Recently, officials from the House and Senate from both parties met with Joe Biden to address the looming economic disaster, a situation that some people think they helped to create. The debt ceiling, commonly referred to as the debt limit, is a significant law that establishes a limit on the maximum amount of money that the government is permitted to borrow in order to pay its debts. This limit has far-reaching consequences, as it significantly influences the state of the country's finances. Now, consider a complex financial problem in which the fate of the federal government, the military, Social Security, Medicare, interest on the debt, and tax refunds are all at stake. The debt ceiling is a limit that is subject to periodic votes in Congress, which can either result in an increase or a suspension of the limit. The amount of money the government may borrow to pay its debts is limited by this amount. At the moment, the debt limit is a staggering $31.4 trillion. However, this threshold was crossed in January, necessitating extraordinary measures from the Treasury Department to give temporary relief while a permanent fix was being explored. Moreover, the U.S. debt limit has become a dramatic conflict due to political impasse. Raising the ceiling is usually a simple matter of procedure for Congress, but obtaining consensus on this occasion appears unusual. And now, time is running short, and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen recently issued a dire warning. If the United States does not expand its borrowing, it may be unable to meet its debts as early as June. Furthermore, if the government defaults on its debt, it will be severely constrained and unable to meet its responsibilities. This would have significant repercussions, jeopardizing pensions and the wages of government and military workers. Additionally, numerous industries would be affected, leading to the closure of national parks and other organizations. Businesses and charity organizations that depend on government funding would encounter significant difficulties. Given how strongly companies rely on information from the National Weather Service service, which is funded by the government, even the reliability of weather forecasts may be impacted. Consider a situation in which the US defaults on its obligations. An event of such magnitude would cause ripples across the global financial system. The nation would be forced into default if the government did not pay the interest on its debt. In 1979, there was a brief incident of inadvertent default because of a problem with processing checks. However, the effects of an intentional default would be far more problematic. Every day, more than $500 billion in US debt is traded, exacerbating the problem. Moreover, Moody's Analytics estimates that a prolonged standoff would cause a 20% drop in the stock market and a 4% contraction in economic activity. This would result in the loss of almost 7 million jobs, which would have a long-lasting effect on individuals and communities. In addition, if foreign investors view US debt as high risk, they will be less willing to lend money to the US government at low interest rates. This would have a trickle-down impact on the whole economy, increasing the cost of consumer borrowing for things like mortgages, car payments, and more. It has been suggested that in order to avoid a debt default, the government might prioritize interest payments first. However, politically speaking, it is difficult to explain why debts to US debt owners like banks, pension funds, and foreign investors should be honored, but retirees and others are not paid. Pursuing a compromise in Congress develops into an exciting journey full of innovative strategies and proposals. While some advocate for a brief extension to allow more time for negotiations, others put up bold and novel ideas. One crazy notion is to create a gigantic $1 trillion coin to pay off the debt, while others suggest a presidential proclamation declaring it a constitutional requirement to fulfill government debt. As witnessed in the past, the US debt ceiling has devolved into an enthralling game of political chicken. In 2011, the country was on the edge of going into default. The negotiation process resembled a chaotic race against time, ultimately reaching a solution at the last minute. This deal came only a few hours before the deadline and called for significant budget reductions totaling $900 billion over 10 years. However, even taking a long time to reach a decision has serious consequences. The 2011 stalemate resulted in a downgrade of the United States credit rating, sending shockwaves across the financial market. The effects were evident, with the public incurring the expense of at least $1.3 billion more in increased borrowing costs in just that year. Meanwhile, the unproven idea of paying certain debts while ignoring others has been swiftly rejected by the Biden administration. They contend that such a strategy would be unjust to average Americans and present severe logistical difficulties. The Bipartisan Policy Center argues that if there were to be a default, the Treasury delaying all payments would be the most likely outcome. They would wait until there was sufficient revenue to satisfy all the obligations that had to be met on any particular day. However, it does not appear that there will be substantial breakthrough very soon. Republicans expect significant concessions in exchange for their debt votes, while Democrats push for a simple increase. Hence, the Treasury Department's ability to make ends meet and satisfy its financial responsibilities is still up in the air. At the moment, the inflow of quarterly tax receipts would inject much-needed money, which will perhaps delay a default until the end of the following month. The Treasury would be able to use almost $145 billion in additional extraordinary measures if it can prevent a default until the end of June. These actions would somewhat increase the government's borrowing capacity, allowing it to borrow through the summer. Overall, the Treasury's ability to survive until mid-June will become more apparent as the weeks go on. According to Shaya Kabas, the BPC's head of economic policy, this would offer Congress and the White House more time to discuss a debt ceiling agreement. In conclusion, we are getting closer to the point where decisions made in the corridors of Congress and the White House will have a lasting impact on the economy. The delicate balance between political talks and economic discipline hangs in the balance at this worrying and unpredictable moment. It would appear that this video has come to an end. Thank you for watching this far. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, give it a like, and comment below with your thoughts on what you've seen so far. This is Finance Sense, here to help you stay updated on all the most recent developments in the world's economies and financial markets. Have a nice day, and we'll see you in the next video.